A very good afternoon, one and all present here. Myself, Dr. Monali Soni, Assistant Professor at BITS Institute of Physiotherapy, would like to welcome everyone in today's webinar. Today's session will describe an overview of physiotherapy in CRPS, that is a complex regional pain syndrome. Now, I would like to welcome today's speaker, Dr. Kemi Bura ma'am. She is specialized in musculoskeletal and the sports physiotherapy. She has completed her post-graduation from SBG College of Physiotherapy, Anand, and bachelor from Government Physiotherapy College, MS University, Vadodara. Presently, she is working as an assistant professor at this Institute of Physiotherapy and having 7.6 years of experience, academic and clinical experience. She is certified manual therapist. She has published 10 research papers in various national and international journals. She is also author of a book named Premenstrual Syndrome and Coping Behavior in Women. Now, before starting the session, I would like to tell that we will be having a live question answer session at the end of the topic. At, the, at that time, you can ask your doubts in the message box. To go through the presentation, kindly pin on the account named Kemi Bhagat ma'am. There will be two accounts of Kemi madam. You can just pin on that. If you miss anything, don't worry. We will be put this session on our YouTube channel. Before starting the session, now I request all the participants to put the microphone on mute mode and please don't share your screen to avoid the chaos. Now, without wasting much time, I like to request Cami ma'am to start the session. Over to you, ma'am.
Good afternoon to all. Very thank you, ma'am, for your such a nice introduction. So let us start with the our presentation. Today's topic is complex regional pain syndrome. So before moving or before understanding what do you mean by complex regional pain syndrome, let us understand or let us see the history behind that, how the name has been evolved. So in 1864, the Silas Weir Mitchell, he had described several cases of coccygia due to gunshot wounds during the American Civil War. So based on that, he had termed this terminology as the coccygia. Then in 1901, Paul Sudeck, by using X-ray examination, he describes the findings of bony atrophy following any traumatic events or the infection of the upper limb. So he had termed this terminology as the Sudeck atrophy. So this coccygia has been changed now to a term as the Sudeck atrophy. Then comes in 1936, where James A. Ewen has coined the phrase reflex sympathetic dystrophy. He supported a key role of sympathetic nervous system in the onset of typical clinical features of the disease. Thus, he has been named this condition as the reflex sympathetic dystrophy. Then in 1973, finally, John Bonica, after inviting the delegates to the International Symposium on Pain, he proposed the terminology to be changed as complex regional pain syndrome. But then in 2003, there is one conference which held in Budapest, and in that conference, finally this name has been adopted as a complex regional pain syndrome. So this is how the name has been changed from coccygia to reflex sympathetic dystrophy and finally a complex regional pain syndrome. So let us first see the definition of complex regional pain syndrome. What do you mean by complex regional pain syndrome? Complex regional pain syndrome is a painful condition which is characterized by sensory, vasomotor, pseudomotor, and trophical changes. If we see the epidemiology, the incidence rate in India, it is approximately 1 of every 2000 trauma. So it is very rare occurring condition in India. It definitely affects all the age group, but the common age group is 41 to 50. So we can say it is the peak age is 40 years. If you question me whether it may occurs in children, yes. This CRPS also affects the children, but it is nil. based on the research, we can say it is below the age of 5. But from the 5 to above the age of 5, you will definitely find in children also CRPS. If we see the ratio of male is to female, the female are more prone to develop CRPS as compared to male, and the ratio is usually 3:1. So 3 times females are more prone to develop CRPS as compared to male. If we see whether the upper extremity is being more commonly involved or lower extremity, so upper extremity are being more commonly involved as compared to the lower extremity. There are various synonyms that can be used for the CRPS, that are shoulder hand syndrome. It can be named as Sudak atrophy. It can be named as reflex neurovascular dystrophy, traumatic angiospasm or vasospasm, or sympathetically maintained pain. The reason for I had used the word sympathetically maintained pain is that usually normally the receptors are being not under the control of sympathetic system. But in CRPS, these receptors are completely under the control of the sympathetic system. That's why it has been sometimes named as sympathetically maintained pain. Now, as such, when we consider all other conditions, we have the various investigations, like we can go for X-ray, MRI, CT scan. But especially for CRPS, till now we don't have any specific investigation report that confirm the person is having CRPS. So there is one criteria which was developed by International Association for the Study of Pain, as it was developed in Budapest, that is in 2003 conference, in the year of 2003. So it has been named or termed as the Budapest criteria. This is the criteria which most commonly used in order to diagnose the CRPS. Now let us see what should be there when you want to diagnose the CRPS. Obviously, the pain, the continuous and disproportionate pain to the injury is the most common and important features in the CRPS. If we see the pain level in the McGill pain questionnaire, usually if we consider from 10 to 50, so the level of this CRPS pain is around 40, which is equal to the pain that is someone suffers from amputation. So you can imagine the level of pain which the person may experience during CRPS. Second, which is the most important criteria, is that one symptoms in any of these 3 of 4 category and one sign in 2 of the 4 category must be there. For example, if I'll talk about the symptoms, so the one symptom should be present either in from sensory, vasomotor or pseudomotor. It should be there from sensory, vasomotor or motor. It can be there from vasomotor, pseudomotor or motor. So you can understand one symptoms must be there in 3 of the 4 categories, and sign means in 2 of the 4 categories. Symptoms is some manifestation of disease which tells the patient, by the patient himself, and sign is the manifestation of the disease that physician usually observe. So one symptoms in 3 of the 4 category and one sign in 2 of the 4 category. So let us see what are those categories. If we talk about the sensory, let us first see the sensory. The person may experience either allodynia or hyperalgesia. Allodynia means the pain which is caused by a stimulus that is usually non-painful. For example, you're brushing your hair. Usually when we brush our hair, it is not painful. But in allodynia, when the person brush their hair or just simply touch their parts, they might be the painful. Hyperalgesia means abnormally increase in the sensitivity to pain. So due to painful stimuli, for example, pin pricking. When we pick the pin pricking, the pain is minimal level, but in such condition, the pain level is much more. If we see about the vasomotor, there might be a temperature asymmetry you may notice. You may notice the skin color changes, or you may notice the skin color asymmetry. But the difference in both the extremities should be more than 1 degree if we talk about the temperature. If we talk about the pseudomotor category, the edema or sweating, or there must be some changes in the edema or sweating if we compare the both extremities. If we talk about the motor or trophical, that is skin changes, there might be a decreased range of motion. The person might have experienced motor dysfunction such as weakness, tremor, dystonia. This motor dysfunction usually you will be able to see in a stage 2 and 3 rather than stage 1. It is not that okay, motor dysfunction will never occur in stage 1. No, in stage 1 also you might notice certain motor dysfunction, but the more amount of the noticeable will be there in stage 2 and 3. And certain trophical changes such as hair, nails or skin, in that you may see a brittle nails or abnormally faster growth of your nails. So certain changes can be there in the CRPS patient. So this is the only criteria by which we can confirm or we may diagnose the condition as the CRPS. But remember one thing, one symptoms in 3 of the 4 categories and one sign in 2 of the 4 categories must be there. Now let us see the types of CRPS. There are 2 types of CRPS, type 1 as well as the type 2. Type 1 CRPS is known as reflex sympathetic dystrophy, whereas type 2 CRPS is known as fausalgia. The main difference between type 1 CRPS and the type 2 CRPS is of nerve. Type 1 CRPS is non-nerve origin, whereas type 2 is nerve origin. So type 1 CRPS usually develops after any noxious event, for example, any trauma. And the symptoms will be remain same in both the conditions, that is pain, allodynia, hyperalgesia, edema, vascular abnormalities or abnormal pseudomotor activity. There is another main important difference is that causalgia will not limited to territory of the injured nerve, means it is not limited to the dermatomal pattern or it will not follow the dermatomal pattern. So that is the second major difference of CRPS type 2. If we talk about the third, type 1 have always nociceptive type of pain, whereas type 2 will have a neuropathic pain, that is nerve origin pain. And when we compare this type 1 and type 2, 90% cases will be of type 1, that is reflex sympathetic dystrophy, and 10% cases are only there of type 2. So type 1 and type 2, the major difference is of nerve. One is non-nerve origin and the second is nerve origin. Now, beside this, there are other clinical features which are common in both. That is, this condition is more marked distally in the extremity. It progresses in intensity and spread proximally, and it may varies with the time. Now, before understanding the different stages of CRPS, as I have told you, in Budapest, the terminology complex regional pain syndrome has been adopted, and where the 3 stages of CRPS has been explained. So before moving the stages of CRPS, let us understand the mechanism or pathophysiology. Usually for the CRPS, the pathophysiology or the mechanism is still unclear. Why it occurs, still it is unclear. But there are certain researches which says that there is a neurogenic inflammation which occurs because of the amplifications of certain substances such as cytokines, bradykinins, substance P, that has been found after CRPS or after injury. So it has been postulated that the result of inadequate inactivation after their release leads to an inflammation. So this viscous cycles of inflammation goes on. So this is the first reason that that is inadequate inactivations of this certain substance. Another theory is also there which postulated or which may says that there are more receptors are available in the CRPS patients in order to receive this inflammatory mediators. So that may leads to an increase in the temperature, that may leads to an skin reddening, edema, etc. So actually the mechanism is unclear, but these are the based on the researches, certain authors or certain researchers has postulated these 2 things, mainly the receptors, and the second thing is inactivation or inadequate inactivations of these mediators. So now let us see all stages in detail. What do you mean? What can be the signs and symptoms in stage 1? Stage 1 is usually occurs from the trauma to the 3 months, or it can occur from last 3 weeks to 6 months. This is the stage of acute or reversible stage. If you'll give a proper management in stage 1, definitely this condition can be a reversible, or you can make the person again to live a normal life. What are the other symptoms that can be seen in stage 1? Pain. Obviously, as I have told you in criteria, pain is the most common features which you can see in the CRPS patient. Hyperhidrosis. Warmth, that is the difference in temperature in both the extremity. Erythema. Rapid nail growth, that is trophical changes, and edema in the distal extremity. Beside this, there are certain researches which say that these are the most common, which is usually you will get in stage 1. But beside this, in certain population, you may get there is decrease in range of motion as well as the decreased muscle strength. But that is found, last two points, that is the decreased range of muscle as well as the muscle strength, is very rarely you will find in stage 1, because it is just a initiating stage. Stage 2, it is known as the dystrophic stage or the vasoconstriction stage. This stage may last for 3 to 6 months. If we talk about this stage has been characterized by severe pain, erythematous skin, decreased hair growth, discoloration with cyanotic areas, persistent hyperhidrosis, decreased range of motion, and muscle weakness. Sometimes stage 2 may be associated with the osteopenia or as well as the osteoporosis. So whenever we need to give a treatment, we need to be extra cautious, because the person may be associated with certain complications of osteoporosis or osteopenia. If we talk about the stage 3 is known as the atrophic stage. This stage has been characterized, in this stage, definitely the pain will get reduced, or pain will be there, but the level of pain has been reduced. Again, the pain will get, the level of pain might be less when the person is in resting position, but it may get worsened with the passive movements. So this is the most important thing. We should not go for passive movement or the passive exercise for CRPS patients. Second thing, the other clinical features or other characteristics which you may find in stage 3 is that the skin may be atrophic, thin, dry, ulcerated. The temperature, if we compare the temperature of both the extremity, the one extremity might be extremely cold, it might be cyanotic, or it can be mottled. Mottled means you may find different shapes, irregular shapes on your skins, that is mottled. So, and this stage 3, sometimes it may be associated with tremors, contracture formation, or dystonia. And there are strong evidence which says that stage 3 has the person who had developed stage 3 will definitely had developed osteoporosis. And this stage will last for months or years. So we need to if we talk about the management portion, we need to be extra, or we need to start our management as early as possible, because during stage 3, atrophy, this, as the name itself suggests, atrophic stage. So here, if we even give the management, the result, 100% result, we might not be able to achieve. So based on this, all these stages, these are the impairments, that is pain or hyperesthesia, limited range of motion. If we talk about the limited or restricted range of motion, you usually see a capsular pattern. For example, if the shoulder has been involved, you might be able to see the restriction of abduction as well as the lateral rotation. If the wrist joint is there, extension might be restricted. If MCP, PIP, DIP, then flexion might be restricted. So usually this CRPS might follow the as capsules might get affected, so you might get a capsular pattern. Not necessary in each and every case, but most commonly you may get a capsular pattern. Edema, vasomotor instability, and trophical changes, as I have told you, and the most commonly osteoporosis. So based on this, let us see the management in detail. I am not going in detail the medical management. I have just focused on the physiotherapy management more. Now, when we talk about the management, see, CRPS is a progressive disorder unless vigorous intervention is being used during the acute stage. So, best intervention is prevention. Whenever you recognize the symptoms of CRPS, you need to start your management. Second most important thing is that along with the physiotherapy management, definitely a medical management is must in order to treat CRPS. Only physiotherapy management or only medical management cannot treat CRPS. This medical as well as the physiotherapy management both goes in hands to hands. So we require a combine or the team efforts of medical fraternity as well as the physiotherapists. So let us see the management in detail. Let us see the stages wise management. As I have told you, if you give the treatment in early stage, that is in stage 1, you will definitely getting a very best result. The person may start living a normal life. So let us first see the stage 1 management in detail. So the first thing is to give the first important thing, as I have told you, the pain is the most common in CRPS. So the first goal of our is to relieve pain. You cannot directly move to mobility unless you relieve the pain, because if pain is there, patient won't allow you to touch also. So the first, my goal is to relieve pain and to control edema. So for that, I can usually go for modalities. There are lots of modalities are available in physiotherapy field, but I usually prefer TENS, that is low TENS, because when we used to give a low TENS, it works on pain gap theory. As well as the second reason of giving low TENS, the effect of low TENS remains for the longer period of time. If you give a high TENS, the effect will be for the shorter period of time. So low TENS, and it is a soothing effect. If you give a low TENS, it will give you a soothing effect. So for relieving pain, TENS can be given to a particular region. If certain tender areas are there, or for particular capsules, you can go for the ultrasounds. Even if in order to control the edema, you can go for the ice or the cryotherapy. Even one can give a retrograde massage, but it should be a very lightly. Third important, beside this modality and massage, the third most important thing is that pneumatic compression. In order to control the edema, pneumatic compression is giving a best result. You can give a pneumatic compressions for at least 10 minutes. As based on the research, this pneumatic compression can be given twice or thrice in a day in order to control the edema. If suppose your patient is not undergoing for the pneumatic compression, you can advise them to go for the elevation and with the elastocrep bandage. Our second goal is to improve the mobility, sorry, to increase the mobility, specifically to involve tissue. In this, there are two main things. Yes, definitely we need to focus on the active exercise. But whenever I talk the active exercise, it should be on a pain-free movement. This word is important. It should be a pain-free range of motion. जितना patient अपने pain को control करके the patient is able to go, you need to advise them कि you need to move your limb up till the pain, you will not experience any pain. Mild pain will be okay, but it should not be so severe pain कि pain हो रहा है फिर भी लेके जाओ. No. Fine. So the pain, the whatever the active movements you are giving or whatever the active exercise you are giving, it should be in a pain-free range of motion. Second most important thing is tendon gliding. Why tendon gliding? Because, or the nerve mobilization we need to focus, because the sympathetic trunk has a great influence on this sympathetic activity. So when we move our tendons as well as the nerve mobilization, it has a great role on our sympathetic trunk. So on these, beside this, you can see a one image which is the images of the tendon gliding. In second, this is the way you need to start with your movement. That is, if you initially you need to do with the normal hand position, that is with finger extension. Then the second position is hook grip. This is considered as the hook grip. Then third position is considered as the full fist. Fourth position, that is on the sixth number. You can see that is, this is the tabletop position. And lastly, you can go for the straight fist. So these are the sequences which you can teach your patients. But remember one thing, it is not so clear. On the today, the patients came to us and we try to give all this mobility on the very same day. कि पहले ही दिन आपको hook fist, then full fist. No, you gradually improve this tendon gliding exercise. And based on the research, this tendon gliding exercise should be done twice in a day and total 10 repetitions. So that is 10 repetitions twice daily. Nerve mobilization, you should follow the Butler's mobilization. So I am not going in detail about the nerve mobilization here. So you can go for the nerve mobilization for upper extremity if upper extremity has been involved. If lower extremity has been involved, you can focus on the lower extremity nerve mobilization techniques. Remember one thing, you should move the limb for the very short period of time. As I have told you, the repetitions must be 10 for twice a day. You should not be ऐसा नहीं कि दिन में 5-6 बार करना है. No, otherwise that may leads to an increase in pain. So you need to be cautious, or it should be for the very short period of time. Third, our goal is that to improve the muscle performance. That is the most important goal. When we talk about to improve the muscle performance, we can focus on stress loading exercise. If we talk about the upper extremity, we can focus on a quadruped positions. Like as you can see in this image, the person is in quadruped position. With this position, you can ask the person to scrub a brush, or you can ask the person to move the hand forward and posteriorly, anteroposteriorly. Initially, you can begin this position from 3 minutes, and then progressively you can increase to 10 minutes. And such exercise you should do in 3 times in a day. If we talk about the lower extremity, we can have a progressive weight bearing activities. So this is about the upper extremity and lower extremity stress loading exercise. Then comes to the distraction. Distraction is very helpful in CRPS patient, as it helps even in relieving the pain also. So distraction, when we talk about the distraction, you should start from 0.5 kg. That is your joints distraction. So you can start from 0.5 kg and you may then increase to 3 kg. If in case if you don't want to distract with the help of the weights, you can even distract their parts with manually too. And such distraction techniques can be given 10 minutes and frequently throughout days. Even you can teach your patients with the help of sandbags. This way you can distract the joints. But again, definitely it should be done correctly. Otherwise, again, that may lead to an muscle guarding, and that may lead to an increase in the pain. Along with this, to improve the muscle performance, when we talk about this quadruped position or the stress loading exercise along with the distraction, this will help the muscles to get activate, even including the joints or the muscles that is proximal to the affected part. So this will be very helpful to that. Secondary, it also helps for the neuromuscular control as well as the afferent fiber stimulation. So when we talk about the CRPS patients, instead of open kinetic exercise, focus more on the closed kinetic exercise in order to improve the neuromuscular control as well as the greater afferent fiber stimulation. Then comes to the general mobility or general circulations. So for that, you can go for the low impact aerobic exercise. Now this goal is important, that is desensitize the area. As I have told you, the sensations might get affected in CRPS patients. So desensitization is must. So you can ask your patients to work with various textures, tape, or vibrate over the sensitive area. But whenever we talk about the desensitization, it should not be more than 30 minutes per day. So you can start initially with 1 minute and then you can progress to 3 to 5 minutes. But the whole day, if we talk about the whole day session, it should not be more than 30 minutes per day. So there are different textures or different ways the training can be given. If we talk about the touch, simple touch, you can start with the softer fabrics and gradually you can progress to the rougher fabrics such as silk, wool, etc. So, and whenever important thing, whenever you go for the touch, it should be slow and then gradually progress to fast. And when we talk about the pressure, initially start with the light pressure and then progress to the deep pressure. If we talk about the temperature, it should be on the patient's pace. So you can even explain them, this is the hot and cold water, where the contrast way you need to take, and the 5 minutes or that completely depends on the patient's pace, how the patient is able to do it. So desensitizations play a very important role when we talk about the CRPS. Then the sixth goal, that is education of the patient. You need to always teach the various intervention or the that deals with the various vasomotor response. Means you need to explain your patients when to use hot, when to use cold, when to go for the gentle exercise. For example, during the initial stage, the hand might be very warm. So during that phase, you cannot advise your patients to go for the hot heating modalities. But when in later stage, when your patients feel cold, you can advise them to go for the heating modality. Again, it depends on the sensitization, or it depends on the how your patient is perceiving the area, whether the touch is proper or not, whether your patient is able to feel heat, whether your patient is able to feel cold. So these are the certain things you need to give. You can see the one word in your image, in these images. It should be simple and clear. You should not be make a so much messy ke patients ne. We should not say each and everything. It should be in a very simple manner, so that the patients understand what he or she needs to take precautions. So this is about the management regarding stage 1. Now, when we talk about the stage 2, all the management will remain same. Almost it remains same. But when we talk about the mobility, during stage 2 and 3, usually a surgical intervention is required in order to improve the mobility, or so that you can even start with the joint mobilization technique, neuromobilization techniques, as well as the gentle stretching techniques in the stage 2 as well as 3. And when I talk about the performance, you need to focus on strength, power, as well as the endurance. So all these three terminologies always goes hand to hand: muscles, power, as well as the endurance. So you need to train all these three together. But remember one thing: whenever you treat the patients of stage 2 and stage 3, take extra precaution, as the osteoporosis is the frequent complications. So very gently exercise you need to give to your patients when it comes to this stage 2 and 3. As I told you earlier also, okay, various researches are telling, said that okay, if you give a physiotherapy management in stage 1, then only the patients get improvement in a much faster rate. But in stage 3, we are not exactly, or we are not getting 100% result of by physiotherapy in stage 3. So whenever whenever we talk about the physiotherapy management, you should always, as I told you, prevention is better. So whenever you find, or whenever you suspect also that this patient might have CRPS, you should start with our physiotherapy management. So these are the general physiotherapy management what we used to give. Now let us see what are the recent advances are going on in today's physiotherapy. So in CRPS, there are various advances has been developed, or physiotherapy has been developed so much. So these are the various techniques, that is mirror therapy. Let's see one by one individually each. First, I'll just elaborate. These are the recent advances which we can find in our today's life. That is mirror therapy, graded motor imaginary technique, tactile discrimination, exposure therapy, virtual reality, and minimizing body perception disturbance. So let us first see what do you mean by mirror therapy. When we talk about the mirror therapy, here you can see one video. In the main aim of this mirror therapy is to create an illusion of normal hand or normality in the affected hand. So what the person needs to do, the affected hand should be kept behind the mirror. Non-affected arm should be in a position so that the reflection is superimposed to where the affected limb is been moving. So what actually occurs? You can see here the patient's affected one hand, otherwise or the second hand. You can see very well now. Fine. So what occurs? We are just tricking with the brain. हम brain को उल्लू बना रहे हैं. We are just tricking with we are just playing with our brain. So brain is getting a both input, that is visual input over the proprioceptive inputs. But the most important thing, whenever we talk again, you can see the most important thing is that whenever we talk about the mirror therapy, one thing always you need to remember: the affected limb or should be moved exactly similar way to the non-affected limb, either passively. But otherwise what occurs if the synchronization is not there? What occurs? your brain is not getting a proper sensory feedback as well as the motor output, so they get exaggerated, and ultimately it ends in a result of extreme pain. So this is the most important thing. Whenever comes to the mirror therapy, you need to be extra cautious. Now let us see the another therapy, that is graded motor imaginary technique. When we talk about the graded motor imaginary technique, when we talk about the graded motor imaginary technique, there are 3 stages are there in graded motor imaginary techniques. There are stage 1, stage 2, stage 3. In this video, you can see a certain flashcards, fine. So in stage 1, there are series of flashcards, such kind of flashcards has been shown to the patients. And the patients needs to identify whether this deflection is of right side or left side. That is the stage 1. Once you feel your patient has been completely thorough with this stage 1, or the patient has been perfectly identifying with the stage 1, whether the part is left or right. The second is the client or the persons or the patients needs to imagine. They needs to only imagine, mark my word, imagine, this is the way they are moving their limbs. They actually are not moving the limb, but they needs to only imagine. And the third stage is mirror therapy, what we have seen earlier. So this is a graded imaginary technique. So this will help us to improve the movement as well as to focus more on relieving the pain, as well as it helps in improving the movement. The third is the tactile discrimination. It has been said that the discrimination level in the CRPS patient has been in the affected limb is been affected as compared to unaffected limb. So here we have a training which is known as sensory discriminating training, where the person has been exposed with the different type of stimuli and at various places. So this will help to improve the concentration of delivered stimuli, increase tactile activity, decrease pain, as well as it also helps in cortical reorganization. So this way tactile discrimination is being very helpful. Then comes to the exposure therapy. Exposure therapy is nothing but it is a one kind of encouragement to your patient. The main aim of exposure therapy is to stimulate the fear. First, to identify the fear, then deconfirm the fear by giving the certain new informations. So first you identify, because see, in CRPS patient, why exposure therapy is important, because the pain is so much that because of that pain, the patients may develop the pain related anxiety as well as the fear. And this viscous cycles will continuously go on, fear, pain, anxiety. So in order to break this chain, you require this therapy. So there are the certain techniques of exposure therapy. You need to first screen out the patients. Okay, you need to understand what problem or what fear that patient is having. Secondly, you educate the patients regarding why this fear is there, that nothing will occur. Usually the most important fear is pain. If your patient having a right shoulder affected, the person will completely neglect that part because of pain. Okay, unko lagta hai agar if I have lived if I go for the flexion of the shoulder, it might be very painful to me, so the person usually avoid it. So this is the most important thing which you need to give. Screen the part why the person is having fear and try to re-educate them. Try to give encouragement. Okay, nothing will happen. This encouragement you can only give in the terms of the treatment. You show them how you had improved the range of motion, how by showing the improving muscle strength. So this is the way you can educate them, and gradually you can go for the exposure of this part. So gradually or slowly and gradually we increase the range of motion. So this is about exposure therapy. Now comes to the virtual reality. I think virtual reality you all might have experienced, or if not, you might definitely have seen in a malls. Now in each and every malls there are virtual realities, fine. So this is the best technique which can be used in CRPS, but because it is very expensive, usually clinics does not buy these virtual reality machines. So otherwise the virtual reality technique is very nice. Let us first see what happened in this virtual reality. In this virtual reality, this is just one video where a person has been given a virtual reality glasses. In this is something different, but if we see another images also where we can ask the person to wear a gloves on the unaffected side, and the images which is created on the screen is of affected side. So in this way, the person can engage in using the both extremities, or by virtually imaging our brain, we are diverting our brain to the another side. So this will help our brain to neglect that pain, and this will help to gradually improve the range of motion, as well as ultimately it also helps in improving the it also helps in decreasing the pain. Let us see a very nice case study is there on virtual reality. This is the one girl, just yes. So this is the one girl whose name is Tesla. He has developed she has developed a CRPS at the age of 9 years, and the lower extremity has been involved in her case. So initially when she coming to this clinic, she has a difficulty in walking also. Gradually, with the help of virtual reality, she started using the lower extremity. Kindly focus in this video about the lower extremity. Now you can see here, with this lower extremity, she has engaged in the activity or game so much that she has itself smashing the this part with the affected limb without any pain. So you can see here, see the kick what she has done. So this virtual reality gives a very nice effect when we talk about the CRPS, but unfortunately it is a very costly, so we usually try to avoid it. Then comes to the last, that is minimizing body perception disturbance. It is nothing but a neglect. But nowadays we cannot use the word terminology neglect. So there is another term has been evolved, that is minimizing body perception disturbance. The main reason of this giving this training, that to give a body perception, minimizing the body perception disturbance, is to create a normal stimuli, or to assist to having a normal sensory or motor response. For example, minifying the lenses. अगर हम when you even you itself has imagine कि अगर आपको पेन हुआ है, so when you see कि क्या लगा है, अगर छोटी चीज if you are hit by a small thing, you feel okay there is no pain, but in case if you hit by a big thing, though you don't have pain but you feel हाँ ये तो कितना बड़ा है मुझे लग गया है, so you start feeling कि yes I am having severe pain. Right, the same thing what we are going to deal with this body perception disturbance. So what we are going, we are minifying, we are usually minifying the lenses, and there are certain ways, that is either the prism can be used, that is prism lenses are being used. It is not a prism, but it is a prism lenses that can be usually used for the stroke rehabilitations. So that prism lenses has been used in such a way that you need to shift your images on the opposite side, on the affected side. So usually you are moving your normal activities, but you can see the vision in such a way that your non-affected affected activity is being moving. So by this way you can minimize the neglect in such patients. So these are the management about the CRPS according to stage wise, as well as the and the recent advances what we are using. Thank you.
Thank you, madam. Really, it was very informative session. I would like to ask the participants, if you have any doubts, please mention in the chat box. I repeat, participants, if you have any doubts, please mention in chat box. Ma'am, we will wait for 2 to 3 minutes for the questions.
Yes, sure, ma'am.
Yes, thank you, ma'am. Yes, ma'am. Ma'am, one question from the Paras sir.
Yes.
Ma'am, can you brief about the tendon gliding in the hand?
Yes, ma'am. See, tendon glidings are the technique which can be given either for the flexors extremity as well as for the extensors extremity. If we talk about the flexors extremities, as I have already mentioned, the initially how you can start. You need to before giving a tendon gliding exercise, you need to always see the range of, or you need to have a thorough assessment. Based on that, you can progress your glidings. Initially, you need to keep your hands in a normal position, that is finger extended and with the thumb neutral position. Then you can progress, or you can ask the person to progress with the hook grip. This is about the hook grip. When you feel the patient does not having any pain, or patient is able to do very easily, then only you need to progress to the full fist. Full fist is this with the DIP flexion. So this is about the full fist. Again, to proceed to the next fist is again the same. The person should be able to do very comfortably, and there should not be any pain. And then again progress to tabletop. So this will lengthen. So here, what is the basic idea behind the tendon gliding is to stretch the tendon at different levels. So based on this, the tendons getting stretched either at the MCP, PIP, DIP in different positions. So this is about the tendon gliding.
Okay, ma'am. Ma'am, one another question from Mansi Patel. In lower limb with weight bearing, is mirror therapy is possible?
Yeah, ma'am, as such, the articles what I have referred, I have got only for the upper extremity, but I somewhat think that if we can use even a mirror therapy for lower extremity, but the only condition is that we should have the another mirror in up front of it, so that at least from there we can see, and you can ask the person to have a side view. So that could be possible, but still date I didn't get any research or any articles which says the mirror therapy for lower extremity. But I'll definitely work on it and I'll get to you back.
Okay, ma'am. Thank you. Ma'am, I think we have covered all the questions.
Thank you, ma'am.
Okay. Thank you so much, ma'am, for
Ma'am,
sharing your valuable knowledge.
ma'am,
Yes, ma'am.
before you conclude, I like to say one thing.
Ma'am,
I'm very thankful to
ma'am,
our management as
ma'am.
well as our
Continue.
principal, sir. I'm very thankful to our management as well as our principal, sir, who allowed me to conduct such webinars, which opens a lots of opportunity. I am really thankful, or my sincere thank is with Sarfraz, sir, who helped during ICT, or who had provided me a very good ICT support. And definitely, I cannot forget you. I'm really thankful to you for being my moderator in my webinar, and all the faculty members for such a kind support. Thank you all.
Okay.
Ma'am.
Thank you, ma'am. Yes, ma'am. Thank you so much, ma'am, for sharing your valuable knowledge with us. I extend my thanks to our Honorable Founder, President and Chairman, Shri Jagdish Bhai Patel sir, our Joint Managing Trustee, Srimati Kamalben J. Patel ma'am, for their constant guidance. I also like to thank our CMD, Shri Dhruv J. Patel sir, to allowing us for organizing such events. I like to thank our campus director, Ms. Hardi Patel madam, for constant motivation and support. I like to extend my thanks to our principal, Dr. Mehul Jadhav sir, and Vice Principal, Dr. Sarfaraz Nawaz Shah sir, for their constant encouragement and support, due to which we can be able to do such events. I want to extend my thanks to Avni Vasant ma'am, HOD Computer Department, for technical support, and respected Gade Dada for wonderful graphics design. I thank all the faculty members. Without their help, this event would not be possible. Lastly, I want to thank all the participants for showing their interest in the session. I once again thank you everyone for making this program successful. BITS Institute of Physiotherapy would look forward to see you. Thank you. Have a good day. Thank you, ma'am.